How do you run your business when it feels like the world is ending? How can you responsibly make content that's not about politics when fascism is rising all around the world? What even is the role of a small business owner and creator right now? Hi there, my name is Megan. I'm 30 years old. I'm a witchy entrepreneur who's been in business since October of 2020, and I am here to teach you everything I know about running a successful online business. So let's just dive on into it. What in the world are we supposed to do as content creators, as small business owners? How in the world are we supposed to promote our information, our products, our services in times like this? I probably don't need to tell you about all of the horrible things going on in the world, but just in case you're wondering what I'm talking about specifically, about like the world feeling like it's falling apart, is late stage capitalism, where there are no safety nets for regular people, and the divide between the hyper rich and people who are struggling to pay rent is getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the rise of fascism and electing objectively fascist leaders like Donald Trump. I mean, the fact that there are multiple GENO sides happening around the world right now, and we are doing absolutely nothing about it as innocent people die. All of this feels so heavy. Because it is. It's devastating. Is it even right to create light, fluffy, entertaining content in times like these? I think the answer is yes, but I didn't come to that conclusion lightly. I don't think that we should just make light, fluffy stuff because none of the other stuff matters. I think we need to make the light, fluffy stuff because our brains need a break from all of the heaviness and all of the horror happening in the world, or we're gonna fall apart too. I think entertainment is a wonderful and dangerous thing. It can be dangerous because it can distract us from our worries so much that we stop taking action to make the worries less worrisome. But it can be beautiful because it gives us a reason to be silly and to play, which is something so innate to being alive. And besides, most of us don't run businesses that are inherently about politics, and so we can't necessarily post about them all the time. Although that doesn't mean we can't post about them ever. This is a big question that I see online, is what is the role of the small business owner, the content creator, the influencer when it comes to politics? Some people say that people should keep their mouths shut and leave politics out of it because that is not what they do. That is not what they're there for. That is not their role, I suppose, when it comes to like getting online. You don't want to see your favorite hair care person talking about, death and destruction. And other people argue that content creators should stay out of it because just because you have a big following doesn't mean you know anything about politics, and maybe you're not qualified to speak on it. I'm going to argue something a little different, because I think what we consider to be political is very interesting, because I think there are a lot of creators who immediately spoke up about the war in Ukraine and saying that this was horrible, it was going to start a whole new world war, and this was a disaster, and people felt comfortable talking about that. They didn't question whether they should talk about it, they just felt that they needed to. But as the ongoing GENO-cide in Gaza has unfolded before us, so many people have remained completely and utterly silent. The same people who spoke up for Ukraine immediately. And I'm wondering what the difference is there. I know some people are going to say that the Middle East is more complicated, and I would argue that point. And also, we've had a full year of these events unfolding in order to educate ourselves on the complicated issues in the Middle East. But I just think that there are lots of people who are ready and willing to fight for white people's rights, but less ready and willing to fight for brown or black people's rights. And I don't think people do this on purpose. I think it's sort of a very buried subconscious bias that a lot of us have that we just need to investigate. Personally, I think people with large followings, people who regularly use their influence to convince people to buy their own products or, make affiliate income by selling other people's products, if you are willing to exert your influence to encourage people to buy things, I wonder why you're hesitating to use your influence to call people to action around a GENO-cide. I do think there's an obligation there to speak up, to say something, to encourage yourself and the people who follow you to take real, practical actions, like calling your representatives, urging them to set up an arms embargo to Israel, or sending money directly to people who are trapped in Gaza. That being said, I don't think all of your content needs to suddenly switch to being about politics. For instance, if you make curriculum for parents who homeschool their kids, a lot of your content is not necessarily going to be political. However, education is an inherently political concept, and the way we are educated and the way we choose to educate our children when we homeschool can involve politics. and in my opinion should. So it wouldn't be completely out of the possibility to post every now and again about how your curriculum teaches critical race theory, about how your curriculum teaches about colonialism through the lens of those who have been colonized rather than through the lens of the triumph of the colonizer. But you can also make content that is not explicitly political but is still politically meaningful. And what I mean by that is simply make sure your curriculum includes lots of diverse authors in your reading list. Make sure the homework associated with your curriculum is accessible to all kinds of learners, regardless of ability or disability. These types of things are not political in the sense that you're not talking about a political candidate or something. They're political in the sense that you are embracing identities that have been historically and currently oppressed. Art and content don't have to be about politics to be politically impactful. Oh, hi there. I was just shuffling my tarot cards. Would you like a quick reading? Here goes. You got the High Priestess, which is a really good sign that you should join the High Priestess Business Mastermind. This is a group coaching experience for witchy entrepreneurs who want to be guided by their intuition without losing track of the practical things that they have to do to run a successful business. Each quarter has a different focus led by a different suit of the tarot and specifically led by a specific card. So for example, in Q1, January, February, and March, we're going to be focusing on systems. This quarter will be guided by swords, specifically the Six of Swords. Now, swords tend to represent intellect and challenge, and systems are definitely a challenge for a lot of more intuitively led business owners. But that doesn't mean systems aren't important for us. They can make our business go a long way. In addition to that quarterly focus, where you'll get a monthly teaching call and monthly implementation call so that you actually do what we teach. In addition to all of that, you'll also get weekly group coaching. You'll get a weekly tarot card pull. There's a private podcast all about using astrology in your business and literally so much more. You do not have to be like a master witch in order to join this, nor do you need to have like a six-figure business. You can be a bit of a baby witch like me, and you can be on your way to six figures. I would love to guide you there. Plus, for the remainder of 2024, you can join the High Priestess Business Mastermind at the founder's price. This is $298 for a quarter or $1,187 if you want to join for the full year. And there are payment plans available for both of those. Doors will open on Black Friday and close again on Cyber Monday, and then they will open once more at some point in December, and then after that, the price will go up. If you want to make sure that you don't miss the chance to join on Black Friday and get a bunch of Black Friday goodies, go to the link in the description to hop on the waitlist. And I'll see you all in the High Priestess Business Mastermind. Okay, so the second big qualm that people tend to have about running a business during very dark times is, how in the world am I supposed to charge money right now? Did you know more than 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now? I think a lot of creators feel like it's wrong to charge money when so many people in your country are suffering and struggling. And I get that. I think there's a lot of empathy in there that we shouldn't ignore. But at the same time, did you know that if 60-ish% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, that means that 109 million Americans are not living paycheck to paycheck and have disposable income to spend. And if you believe that your services or products put good into the world, then why would you not sell them to those 109 million people who might want them? I think this is where a lot of money fear comes from, is this fear of not being good enough, not being worth the money you're charging. Because under capitalism, we're basically told you should squeeze every penny out of people that you can. But business is not capitalism. I know that they're related and they're interconnected for sure, but they're not one and the same. And it is possible to do business in a less capitalistic, less extractive, less exploitative way. I have an entire program about this called Making Money as a Leftist. It will be launching again in January or February sometime soon. So go to the link in the description to check that out if you like. And finally, the last thing some of my clients have been asking me is, Megan, how do I get any work done right now? I feel so fucking hopeless. How am I supposed to create anything good right now? Let's talk about when to take a break and when to push through, because this is a really big decision that many of us don't know how to make, so we end up stuck at the crossroads, unsure of how to move forward. Here's the way I typically decide if I should work on my business or if I should, I don't know, take a nap, cry, grieve, journal, process these feelings, right? If I am emotionally activated, what I probably need to do is do some regulation and then get to work, because getting to work will help complete the stress cycle. It will make me feel that I have accomplished something, and that in and of itself will be regulating. So it'll become sort of an upward spiral as opposed to a downwards one. Some of the tools I typically use to regulate so that I'm able to get to work are using an ice roller, or if you don't have a roller, you can just get like a frozen bag of peas and put it on your chest or on the back of your neck. Feels amazing, very, very regulating. I also love singing and dancing. I find those to be incredibly regulating activities as well. And finally, if nothing else is working, I get in my car and drive around as I scream. You gotta do what you gotta do. And then after I've regulated, after I've done some of those activities, I will sit down and I will give myself one task. And I say, you just have to do this one task. And then if you feel better, you can keep going. But if you don't, you're allowed to be done, but you need to try. I would say probably 60 to 70% of the time I keep going after that, because working is making me feel better. This isn't about distracting myself from my pain. It's about channeling all of that activated energy into producing something tangible that makes me feel productive and makes me feel good. Now, on the other hand, if you're feeling very, very depressed and heavy and not activated, sort of deactivated, you kind of feel offline and floaty, that's usually when I take a break, because I'm probably not going to be at my best content creation wise if I try to sit down and write something hopeful, when in reality, in my head, I'm like, everything is pointless and stupid. If you're in that state of mind, then I recommend doing some things that are going to help you process this global grief that we're all experiencing. This isn't grief like losing a loved one, although that is crushing and horrendous. This is the grief of knowing that the human race is literally killing itself for profit. And that is so sickening and so exhausting and so scary. And processing this kind of grief, the grief for the collective, is different, I think, than processing grief for the loss of a loved one. Again, we're not ranking them. Neither one is worse or better or harder or anything like that. They're just different. I think when you're grieving for the collective and going through this global grief, community and connection is really what's going to help the most. For me, this has looked like doing my best to get to my local poetry slam nights once or twice a month if I can. I have kids, so getting out of the house is always a little complicated, but when I can go, I really try to go, and I try to talk to people if I can, even though I'm autistic and that's also hard. We can't save the day alone. We can't stop capitalism alone. We can't end genocides alone. We have got to have a team, a community of people who are concentrated on doing good in this world. And that leads me to my last piece of advice, which is you need to embrace your role in the upcoming revolution. And I know for some that's going to sound kind of extreme, like upcoming revolution, what are you talking about? I believe that there's going to be a change. There's going to be a shift, that the path we're on is completely and utterly not sustainable, and that eventually we are all going to reach a breaking point and the world is going to change in some really, really big ways. It's going to evolve and change, and we are going to have to revolt in some ways, and there's going to be a revolution of sorts, although I can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like. But I can tell you that we're all going to have a different role in this upcoming revolution. You don't have to do it all by yourself. In fact, you can't. It's okay to pick a lane and get really good at being in that lane. Some of us are going to be fighters. Some of us are going to be healers, speakers, artists, and so much more. I know it's cliche, but it is true that under most fascist regimes, some of the first people who are assassinated or locked up are the artists. And that's because art is powerful. It drives connection, it drives action, it drives wanting. It tells us it's okay to want more, it's okay to want better. And hell, sometimes it just distracts us from the pain of it all, and that gives us the ability to keep going. So keep creating, keep sharing, keep loving the world in your own unique way. We need it. I'll see you next time.